I was speaking to a chartered accountant who also handles investment, and I was quite appalled at the level of tax that he did not understand, right? So I thought I should make one video for everybody on taxation and investing. So broadly, there are 3-4 categories in which you invest. First is the tax deferred option, which is your ELSS, your your ULIPs, etc., which are investments which you make, which on which, while you making the investment, you get your ATC deduction, which has now become irrelevant for many people, but it is still relevant for people who are paying, who are salaried people who have still opted for the first option of taxation. So for them it is relevant. So these are tax deferred. When you pay, you get a tax break. Then it grows on which in India you don't pay any tax on a year to year basis. You pay capital gains only when you withdraw. So you get a tax break when you invest, then it grows unhindered. It does not, nothing happens to it, and then when you withdraw, you pay tax. As of now, the tax is 12.5%, but if you're 20 years of age or 25 years of age, be ready to pay tax there also at 30%, because somewhere there is somebody who will say, oh my god, why is capital gains being taxed at a lower rate? So that might happen. So this is the tax deferred account. Then there is the tax free account. So the tax free account is something like PPF, where your money grows tax free. When you put, you get a tax break. When you invest, you've got the tax break. The interest is tax free. When you withdraw, it is tax free. This is called EEE. Very rare to find such products. One product is PPF, and the government will not abolish PPF. They may not increase the limit. The limit of 1.5 lakhs has been there for such a long time that it's not funny. But then they're not going to do anything about it. And since ATC itself has lost relevance, I don't think people are going to say, please increase the limits in PPF. Of course, occasionally there will be a hue and cry saying, please make it 5 lakhs. And the government may be tempted to, simply because the government is getting the money. But yes, tax EEE accounts are very rare. Then the third one is when you put money in a mutual fund, you may or may not get the tax break. It's not an ELS, it's a regular index fund or a balance fund, a balance advantage fund, something like that. So when you put money, you don't get tax break, but it grows without any taxation. So it keeps growing, and when you withdraw, you pay tax, right? The fourth category is when you put money, you don't get a tax break, and you pay tax on the gain every year, in the sense that it's a bank deposit. So when you make money, when you put money in a bank, let's say you put 1 crore in a bank fixed deposit and you get 7 lakhs of income. That 7 lakhs of income is actually taxable. For a minute, if you assume you have no other income, then up to 12 lakhs is tax free. But that is because of your particular case. But normally bank interest is taxable at the full maximum marginal rate. You could be in the 30% slab, 30% plus surcharge, so you will be taxed at 30% plus surcharge. These are as far as instruments and buckets are concerned. Okay, there is a tax deferral bucket, tax which is without any tax also you're investing and you're getting the tax after a longer period, and there is a EEE which is completely exempt, right? So these three things are there. Then there are other subtle things about taxation which people don't realize. Like if you have a 2-year-old kid or a 3-year-old kid, it makes sense to invest money in the kid's name, because the kid is going to need it after he or she turns 18, right? So at that stage there will be no clubbing provision. So it's good to withdraw some money from that account at that stage and pay some capital gains. Even if you have to pay the same 12.5%, you will not be on a surcharge. You will save something like that. And if you have created at that stage, you go from growth option to dividend option, well, up to 12 lakhs again it is tax free. So you use that money to pay for college fees, etc., marriage, whatever you want to spend it on, or the kid wants to spend it on. Maybe he spends it to buy a car, maybe doesn't do anything, maybe he uses it as uses that money to make a down payment for a house or for his or her own retirement. So whatever it is, so invest money in the name of the children. It makes sense, you're allowed to, and it is a nice way of deferring taxes for 17-18 years, right? It's not small. Another thing is those people who are helping their parents in the financially, right? If you send money, if you send, let's say you send 3 lakhs of rupees to your parents every year, it makes a lot of sense to put money in a fixed deposit in your dad's name, or your maybe half of it in your mom's name, and you then make sure that the income is going to them and not to you. Again, because you are supporting, I'm making an assumption that they don't have taxable income, or even if they do have taxable income, they are on a much lesser slab than you are, right? So that makes sense. So again, you are by locating the assets in the right places, you're going to pay less tax. Another thing which I was quite shocked when I saw an investment professional not understanding this is one of the fund houses, let's name them, ICICI Prudential has 2 funds in which you can't, one of them you can't invest, which is a global fund of funds kind of a thing, which where I wouldn't call it a fund of funds, it's a fund which will decide where to put the money. And yes, it's a fund of funds, so it may decide to put the money in China, it may decide to put money in Japan, it may remove from Japan, put it in maybe after the war is over in Russia or whatever, right? So it could be doing that. Now I can do it myself. I know now is the time to be investing in US. I know it's time to be withdrawing from China and investing in Japan, right? I know all that. So I can do it myself. It is very, very tax inefficient. It makes sense for me to give it to a fund manager who is good, who decides how much to put in Japan, how much to put in US, how much to put in Korea. He decides or she decides all that, and grows my money, and my money I pay tax only when I withdraw. So if I do a, let's say, a 25,000 rupee or a 30,000 rupee SIP into a fund like this, I don't have to worry about tax. I don't have to worry about international markets for the next 15-20 years, as long as my SIP continues and I don't withdraw, right? So these are all various ways in which you have to understand taxation before you embark on investing. So when I'm saying all this, it does not mean that if you don't understand taxation you should not invest, but I'm saying if you do invest, and if you are supporting parents, and you're supporting your parents financially, and you have young children who will come up for studies, right, and then use all this information to create your own portfolio. Don't ask for my email ID. I'm not here to create your portfolio. I'm here to tell you when you are making mistakes, what should be the things for you to watch. That's what I'm doing. Thank you.